Hello everyone, it's great to be with you again. As a child, I was fascinated by rainbows, and as an adult, I continue to be so. Especially when I see a double rainbow, I become especially excited and I become that small child again. Now I'm sure many of you also love rainbows, and I think that you'll find the following words sound familiar. They're words from a very well-known song and movie. Somewhere over the rainbow, way up high, there's a land that I heard of once in a lullaby. Somewhere over the rainbow, skies are blue, and the dreams that you dare to dream really do come true. Someday I'll wish upon a star and wake up where the clouds are far behind me, where troubles melt like lemon drops, way above the chimney tops. That's where you'll find me. Somewhere over the rainbow, bluebirds fly. Birds fly over the rainbow. Why then, oh why can't I? If happy little bluebirds fly beyond the rainbow, why, oh why can't I? From the moment it was written for the 1939 film The Wizard of Oz, Over the Rainbow took on a significance greater than the moment it was intended to soundtrack. And that's partly because the duo who wrote it, composer Harold Arlen and lyricist Yip Harburg, had known some fairly hard times themselves. Jarberg in particular had been born poor in New York, the son of Jewish immigrants. Having worked his way into prosperity in electrical supplies, his business was wiped out by the Great Depression, leaving him with nothing but his wits and promising sideline in writing. He told the New York Times, "The capitalists saved me in 1929, just as we were worth, about $250,000. Bang! The whole thing blew up. I was left with a pencil and finally had to write for a living. What the Depression was for most people was, for me, a lifesaver." His first hit, Brother Can You Spare a Dime, was a bittersweet lament from the perspective of a homeless man who can't find work. But Harburg's speciality was lyrics that pined for a better tomorrow. He once said, "We worked for in our songs a sort of better world, a rainbow world." Now my generation unfortunately never succeeded in making that rainbow world, so we can't hand it down to you. But we could hand down our songs, which still hang on to hope and laughter in times of confusion. At the time Over the Rainbow was written, that confusion was caused by a huge financial slump. But by the time it came out, families were becoming caught up in World War II. A special recording of the song by Julie Garland and the Tommy Dorsey Orchestra was pressed and sent out to American soldiers as a promise of better times to come. She also performed it live for troops in 1943. Garland's version later became an anthem of possibility for LGBT plus people, the rainbow and the lyrics matching the multicolored flag of inclusion flown at pride marches, and the term friend of Dorothy even becoming a knowing reference for gay men. Her frail and trembling voice embodied both the fragility of hope in dark times and the yearning that something good will eventually happen. But it's not just her version that has touched people down the years. Many artists have covered the song, from Willie Nelson, Ava Cassidy, Rufus Wainwright, Israel Kamakawiole, to the cast of Glee, and has been used by NASA to awaken their astronauts, who've most certainly gone over the rainbow. The song was also recorded by the choir of Sandy Hook Elementary and Ingrid Michaelson as a healing moment after the 2012 mass shooting at the school. For me, rainbows speak of hope, and as COVID restrictions within Goodwin House are gradually being loosened, I'm sure you, like me, hope for a better future. Hope, I believe, is a major human characteristic. The poet Emily Dickinson wrote, "Hope is a thing with feathers that perches in the soul, and sings the tune within the words, and never stops at all. And sweetest in the gale is heard and sore must be the storm that could have bashed the little bird that kept so many warm. I've heard it in the chillest land and on the strangest sea, yet never in extremity it asked a crumb of me. Emily Dickinson's poem captures something of the fragility and persistence of that quintessential word of life, hope. In the gale, in the storm, in the chilliest land and on the strangest sea, hope, like a tiny bird, perches in the distraught soul, singing the wordless song of hope, singing without ceasing. And that is surely what hope is. Fragile. Fragile but never ever giving up. Fragile but resilient. As a Christian, I believe that hope tells us that God does not give up. God does not let go. God finds different ways in different times to stir God's people and make them question and wonder and think and disagree and act. Yet hope, of course, is not just a Christian characteristic. It is evident in the lives of people of other faiths and people who have no faith at all. At this stage in the COVID saga, I suspect each one of us has once hope in our lives. The gradual lifting of COVID restrictions is definitely a sign of hope. Whether you are a person of faith or not, I am sure many will know the story of Noah and the flood. In the story, a rainbow has a starring role. The creation story of the flood ends not in destruction but in hope, and the rainbow is seen as a sign of God's hope. The Noah story is about despair, but it's also about hope. It is a parable of condemnation, yet also of redemption. It is of rejection, but also welcome. The floods abate, and the hope for creation emerges out of the chaos and judgment. Hope comes. In many ways, it's a parable which can be read as a parable for our time, in the relentless flood that has been COVID-19. We've been stuck in the arks of our homes, day after long day, night after longer night. Humanity is often without hope. As a Christian, I believe that hope depends entirely on a move from God. God resolves to stay with us, endure and sustain our world, notwithstanding our brokenness. God takes as God's ultimate vocation not judgment, but affirmation. After the unrelenting grim time in the parable of the flood, in the present reality of COVID-19, hope will and is coming. It is God's way. We are not immune to future crises, of course. Bad times will come again to involve the earth. But as they do, when they do, God's hope will come again and we'll win through. A few years ago, I was driving in the Fens, an area of the east of England, on one wet Friday afternoon, and I stopped the car as a fabulous rainbow appeared ahead of me. Then I noticed the name of the lane I was actually on. It was called Hope Lane. Because hope comes even in the middle of darkness. Hope even in the time of COVID. Hope not just as vaccines go in arms. Hope not just as spring begins to appear. Hope as restrictions are being eased. As Jonathan Sacks, former chief rabbi in the UK, wrote, "All I know is that the great achievement in life is to have been, for one person, even for a moment, an agent of hope." The rainbow is a symbol of hope. The writer Maya Angelou once said, "Try to be a rainbow in someone's cloud." As we embrace the lifting of some of the COVID restrictions, let us be a rainbow people, a people of hope. Thank you for joining me at this video, and I wish you a very good day. Thank you.